Hey, YouTube folks, welcome. Get your heart ready. What happened at Santos Luis is a spectacle. It's crazy. It gives anyone goosebumps. It's between the biggest rivalry on the planet, Magnus Carlsen versus Nakamura. I want to bring you the most unbelievable game of the year. And I'm saying this without any exaggeration, with footage of the players and the most dramatic moments, the reactions. It's the kind of thing you watch lying on the floor and it's still dangerous. The planet might just open up and swallow you whole. The world is in shock, but I'm warning you. Hold on, grab your popcorn, and let's dive into the wonder of chess. And look, Magnus started with himself. Bobatala's favorite quadrino. Naka, of course, played a Sicilian. He went for the fight. As expected, Magnus brought in the knight, and now Naka signals he'll play one too. Dragon. We know that in the dragon, it's rough and tough. And the position is going to escalate into tactical themes. d4 opens the Sicilian with exchanges. Nothing new so far. Fianchetto on the queen side, knight to c3, knight to c6. Also all normal. Bishop moves Magnus, and now knight to f6. Raphael chess, up to this point, I'm not surprised. Of course, the pieces are coming into play, within the spirit of the dragon. Now Magnus takes on c6, and after the recapture, this is where things start to heat up. He plays e5. You can see the position is becoming sharper, more tactical, and confusing. Naka retreats the knight to g8, threatening the pawn. Magnus said, no problem, I'll hold it and everything's fine. And now Naka says, the pawn is going to fall. Well, of course it's not going to fall. We're still in the opening phase. Both players know this position in detail. Although we're all following along here, we don't really know what's going on anymore. We're just watching. 4 holds the pawn. Now knight to h6, Naka plans to move the knight to fe5 and prepare to castle. It seems normal, but it's not. Because Magnus plays the move e6, and from here, everything is unbelievable. This move clearly threatens the bishop. If you take on d4, you'll face an intermediate move on f7, making things more complicated. Naka said, I don't want to trade my fianchettoed bishop. The dragon bishop is very important in this kind of position. And then Magnus takes on d7, bishop takes, and here the battle becomes very clear. Magnus plays queen to f3. The queen is super active. You might have some crazier ideas like castling, although it doesn't work. You could take the bishop. g4 takes a brutal diagonal skewer. And you can't play c5, otherwise you hang the rook, Raphael, but you just have to move the rook. Naka played rook to d8, saying he would play c5 and that the opponent's bishop wasn't strong. The knight's moving to g4, be careful. You can't castle long. Bishop to g4, it's messy. Bishop to c5. Magnus played, saying, I block your advance and also keep an eye on the e7 pawn. You can't castle. Bishop to e6, Naka played. That's an interesting move because it suggests 2 ideas. Take a look. He defends e7 so he can castle, and also defends bishop to c4, which could also prevent him from castling. Both players are managing their time very well. Magnus finishes his development, and now castling has put Raphael in a tough spot. Everything seems normal, so what's wrong with this position? The issue is about to occur. Because Naka plays a move at this moment that seems like he can't play, he moves the rook from f8. Raphael chess mano doesn't scare me. This move looks normal, but it isn't. Because you see Magnus's next move already seems to collapse Black's position. Magnus played queen e3, attacking the bishop and threatening capture. The pawn on a7 can't defend both things. Did Naka fall for a double attack? Of course not. And the unbelievable is about to start now because Naka defended the bishop and Magnus took that pawn without realizing anything because it looks like a pawn he just wins. And he still threatens. Look, to win an exchange, you would have an exchange and an extra pawn. And here, of course, everyone expected Naka to defend this queen and rook formation, so he wouldn't lose everything. But Naka puts a piece on the attack by playing knight to g4 first. Look at the images. The moment Naka makes this maneuver, it's a move that, of course, brings a piece forward. That can't be bad. The game has already escalated to maximum tension. And, of course, this move attacks the queen. Magnus defended the queen, renewing. Notice the skewer threat, which wins an exchange and also targets another pawn. Don't overlook that. Here, Naka calculated in detail. He spent a lot of time on this position and he didn't defend against this tactical theme. He made a move I think is one of the most brilliant in chess history, no exaggeration. Naka played the move f5, opening up the pair of bishops and allowing Magnus to win an exchange. Put the images on the screen. You can see that Nakamura looked at this position, carefully searching for moves. He couldn't believe his eyes. The world wondered what Naka was calculating in this position. He has to get out of the tactical theme involving the bishop and the rook. But he didn't move either the rook or the queen. He played f5, paused briefly, then made an unbelievable move. And a move like this is proof that aliens are among us. They're here and they're coming. There you go. On 3 in Atlas, all is real. Because Magnus, of course, played the tactical move, and the world wonders what Naka saw to play the move f5. Look what happens from here. Naka had less time. Let's figure this out. It's not easy. He plays queen b7, f5, queen b7. It's all from the engine. And Magnus, here, not understanding what was happening, he took that exchange. Naka took back. And here, you start to realize that the whole trick is set up. Look there, Naka is already about to win Magnus's queen. Raphael chess is interesting, but it's mainly about defense. Why did he play knight to g4? You'll soon see. Everything will make sense soon. Magnus blocked the bishop from d4 in the next moves. Hang in there, Raphael. First, it's not just about moving the queen easily while defending the b2 pawn. It's not easy at all. The knight on g4 was there to cover that line. If you take the queen on b6, it checks you, and after you move, the knight goes to f2. And in the worst case scenario, you'll have to give the exchange back. And if you refuse to give the exchange, just move the king. You get this brutal, unbelievable pyrotechnic checkmate by the knight. All of this was already in Nakamura's calculation. But of course, Magnus saw it. Magnus wasn't born yesterday. He held here and is arguing, "You don't have bishop to d4 now, and I'm up a quality. I took that rook from you, Naka." At this moment, he plays the next engine move, rook to d5, Raphael chess. Calm down there. He attacked the queen, you just have to defend. Exactly, but Magnus has to defend on the only square he has, which is with the queen. a3 allowing. Look at that. Bishop takes b2, attacking the queen and the rook. So, up to this point, everything was calculated. Hold on, Rafa. First, why would Magnus put the queen on a3? He played that move. Why doesn't he play queen to c4? Because you lose the queen. Unbelievable, right? The queen's in the center and you lose her. There's no square left to save Damuska anymore. Naka saw everything in that move. f5. So, a file full of danger, full of poison on all sides. Rook to d5. Magnus moves the queen back to the only square he has. And now, Nakamura has made the move. Bishop takes on b2, giving a skewer to the queen and the rook. Put on the screen the footage from the moment Naka made this move. So, a line way ahead, all calculated, something out of the ordinary. You don't see lines like this every day. Now, it's never easy. Against Nuru, Naka played like a machine, but Magnus brings more spice. One more problem. He plays the move rook to a1, saying, "You're not going to get the exchange back. If you take the queen, you lose your own queen." It's simply a queen exchange. And remember, you lost that rook when you took the bishop on b6. Naka didn't mention it. And he played another brilliant move. Rook to b5. He must have calculated this back on f5. And that's the most extraordinary thing you can imagine. Raphael chess. Taking the queen here isn't good. No, because it's just an exchange. Now, rook to b5. Not sure if Magnus calculated it. Everyone wondered if he did. But here, the whole point is that Magnus simply defended the queen on a3. Raphael chess, why can't Magnus take the rook that Naka played here? Since your rook no longer covers b7, white loses the queen. And here, Naka would be completely, absolutely winning. So, look at what this man calculated. It's unreal, otherworldly. Rook to b5. Everything is logical, mechanical, and brilliant. But Magnus keeps fighting and Naka is still down a piece. We can't forget that. But right now, Naka gets his piece back with this move. Bishop d4 is completely out of this world, really, this whole line. He checks and Naka will recover the piece by taking on b1, which can't be prevented. Magnus must recapture, so he takes the bishop that delivered the check. And now Naka gets the piece back, almost 1,000 moves later. Since 5, everything was forced. So Naka calculated a super long line, forced and full of forks and complex variations. Well, he can recover the quality now. And in this position, Magnus can't take here. Because the tactical theme isn't over yet, the king would be trapped, leaving Naka a piece ahead. It would be a completely shocking win if it ended like that. But here, Magnus kept fighting, so you have to fight. Look there, he defends the rook, proposes the exchange, activates the knight. Naka doesn't want to simplify, he plays rook to b4. It's amazing, because when Magnus defends the queen here, the material is equal in this position. Since that bishop exchange on b6, all the tactics. Here, there's a queen for each side. Look, a queen for each side, a rook for each side, 2 minor pieces for each side, and 5 pawns. Everything is equal with one difference. Nakamura has control of the b file. So strategically, Naka is a little bit better. But at this moment, after all that brilliance, Naka didn't slow down. And here he makes an inaccuracy. Raphael chess, I knew it. Years go by, years come, and the trickery is the same. At some point, the psychological aspect gets hurt. And what about Naka? Here, he goes along a line. He keeps playing sharply. His idea is to take here on f4. Notice that he's also giving. Engines suggest the best move is to bring the knight back, rearrange, and maintain control of the e7 pawn, but that's not happening. Naka played the move queen to b8. And the thing now is that Magnus, he starts to get a certain initiative. Look at that. This is dangerous. He plays h3, showing the knight and removing first-rank checkmate threats. Then knight to f6 is played, bringing back the young knight. And Magnus said, well, this pawn is hanging, so did you sacrifice it? Look at the footage of the moment Magnus took the pawn on e7. Magnus is arguing that here he'll be up a pawn, and it makes sense. Look there, because when Magnus takes this pawn, he's still attacking. The knight that's loose on the f6 square, and you don't have time to take on f4. What's Nakamura's argument? Nakamura argues his knight on h5 will take the pawn, as he's applying pressure with 3 pieces. But Magnus here defends by offering a queen trade. Raphael, I know already. Now Naruga wants to go into the endgame. This brutal match could suddenly play into Magnus's greatest strength. It could, and here you can't really stop it or take it. On f4, a queen is falling. Naka exchanged pieces, entering an endgame where Magnus, surprisingly, has an extra pawn. Here, Naka plays knight to f4. Hold on. I'm more active, my pieces are playing more. Magnus played a 4. So he starts pushing his extra pawn there on the queen side. Naka takes, Magnus recaptures. And here Naka is saying this position won't get out of control. I attack you, knight. If it moves, I take on d3 and play on. Magnus said, no, I'll hold on. Now in the endgame, I feel like I'm in Norway. That's what Magnus meant. Do you feel at home? Good. Naka keeps an eye on the advance of the a-pawn, and now Magnus starts bringing the king. The initial move to the c5 square put Naka ahead. Taking control of the d4 square, Magnus played king to e3, and now the bishop is on e8. Well, Raphael, here it looks like the pawn is going to fall. There's no problem, but it doesn't fall because Magnus finds the move knight to d5, saying if you take it. This is just an exchange, and I'll keep having extra pawns. And on top of that, the pawn is already passed here on the file, and Nakamura brought the king. And now they're going to get into this kind of exchange because Magnus takes on c5 now. The worst part is that this isn't a fair exchange because you don't have time to properly take this pawn. See that Naka played g5, Raphael? Why can't you take it? Because you'll lose here. After rook to c7, king to e6 is the move. Now knight to f4 is check. And there are no more king moves. Unless you take the pawn, you'll lose a piece. It's incredible how something like this can happen in such an artistic game, like that middle game was. But Naka lost control of g5. He just played a5. And Magnus, in fact, has 2 extra pawns. He held off the American's brilliance and now has 2 extra pawns. Bishop to d7 controlling the g3 check. Magnus played it, now just holding on, and Naka said, I'm going to push a pawn on this side. Things are not easy here at all. Magnus played h4 to fix the structure, so Naka now has to take a risk and plays f4. After the capture, the American claims he has a passed pawn and the game isn't over, especially with the time pressure that was taking over. Rook to c7 threatens the bishop. Now king to e6. Unbelievable, since after king to e4, it's forced for Naka. He's gonna lose that bishop because there's the threat of the move f5, and when the king moves away, you lose the bishop. Here, Naka resigned. It's not possible. It's not possible. This brilliant artistic game. He still lost. It's unbelievable how chess can be crossed here. Ravaglio couldn't play the move rook to a4 he could, but then you get the move d4 and the threats are the same. You can't save this position, you're going to get checked. And when the king moves, you're going to lose. The bishop is unstoppable. It's time to resign. Notice the piece exchanges. At the game's end, Naka pushed a pawn under time pressure, but here Magnus was already completely winning. And after the move king to e4, the American calculated and resigned, turning his face away. That was a really frustrating game for Nakamura. Magnus shakes his hair and wins another one. And now the pressure is on. It's scary. Magnus is playing like a machine. Even though Naka was very creative, Magnus doesn't make mistakes. It's incredible. It's like Stockfish itself playing. Naka's pressure was impacted, leading to mistakes in the final seconds due to time trouble. The game was brilliant, but Magnus is still leading the tournament. I'm recording this video before the start of the last round, but I want to bring it to you, of course. Magnus is leading the championship. He's going to be the champion. The world is watching and will monitor every detail. If you enjoyed the analysis, comment below with your thoughts on the game. Are you as scared as I am seeing all this? And don't forget to like and see you in the next videos.